In the summer of 1972 at Yosemite National Park, a 20-year-old named Dickren Canadian stepped out of his tent asking for directions to Half Dome, the iconic granite monolith that draws adventurers from across the globe. With a bright smile and the enthusiasm of a brilliant pre-med student from Cambridge, he was soaking up his first American vacation. But within hours, Dickren vanished as if the earth had swallowed him whole. His luggage remained untouched in his tent, the bed unrumpled as though he'd never slept there. No tracks, no witnesses, no answers. This isn't an isolated tale. From the crowded trails of Yosemite to the fog-shrouded streets of Spokane, countless individuals, children with wide-eyed innocent scholars with boundless potential, have disappeared without a trace, leaving behind baffling clues and haunting questions. What's happening in the shadowy corners of America's wilderness and cities where an unseen force seems to be hunting? Yosemite National Park, one of America's most breathtaking natural wonders, is more than a tourist haven. It's a hotspot for chilling mysteries. With its lush forests, towering granite cliffs, and shimmering rivers, it feels like paradise. But beneath this beauty lies a dark history. Dubbed the largest cluster of vanishings in the world, Yosemite has seen dozens of people, from promising college students like Dickren to accomplished scientists, disappear without explanation. The atmosphere here carries an eerie undertone. The paved trails, bustling with hikers by day, grow unnaturally quiet as dusk falls. Cold winds sweep through the valleys, whispering secrets of those who've vanished. The strangest part: many of these disappearances happen in plain sight, surrounded by crowds, as if the victims were erased from reality in an instant. Meet Dickren Canadian, a 20-year-old with a future as bright as the California sun. Born into a wealthy Ethiopian family that owned Bacchus and Strauss, the world's oldest diamond and watch company, Dickren was more than smart. He was magnetic. Friends at Cambridge called him brilliant, a pre-med student dreaming of saving lives. Tall and lean, with sharp eyes and a warm smile, he loved sharing stories of his Ethiopian roots. In the summer of 1972, Dickren set out to explore America before heading to Florida. His first stop was Yosemite, where he checked into Curry Village, a lively tent camp buzzing with community spirit. Cabin 486 became his temporary home. On July 24th, a perfect sunny day, he dropped off his luggage, a backpack stuffed with clothes, books, and personal items, and asked the front desk for directions to Half Dome. The clerk pointed to a paved trail, saying it was a straight shot. That was the last anyone saw of Dickren alive. But Dickren's story is just one thread in a larger tapestry. Thousands of miles away in Spokane, Washington, another man vanished in a way that defies explanation. John Marshall, 49, was a former Marine lieutenant colonel and chief surgeon at Spokane's VA hospital. John embodied discipline and strength. Tall, muscular, with salt and pepper hair and a steely gaze, he was the kind of person you'd want by your side in a crisis. Every morning, he drove from his rural home to the downtown YMCA, stashed his wallet and keys in a locker, and jogged through the city streets. It was a routine carved in stone. But on January 25, 2015, as thick fog blanketed Spokane, John left the YMCA at 5:33 a.m. and never returned. His car sat untouched into the parking lot, his belongings safe in the locker, but John was gone. The next day, his body was found in the Spokane River face up, a rare anomaly for male drowning victims, with a bone-dry iPod in his pocket, as if he'd never touched the water. Then there's Dennis Martin, a 6-year-old with a radiant smile and mild learning difficulties. In June 1969, Dennis joined his family at Spence Field, a scenic spot on the Appalachian Trail, for a Father's Day camping trip. His father, a sharp architect, kept a close eye on him. While playing hide-and-seek with his brother and other kids, Dennis darted behind a tree just yards from his dad. His father swears he never looked away, not for more than 30 seconds. But when the game ended, Dennis didn't emerge. He was gone, vanished right under his father's nose, as if plucked from the world. Torrential rain poured for 7 days, drowning any hope of finding him. Stranger still, a family 2 miles away reported hearing a blood-curdling scream and spotting a hairy man carrying something on his shoulder. The FBI dismissed their account, and Dennis's fate remains a mystery. These are just the tip of the iceberg. From toddlers like Jared Atadero III and Dior Kuntz II, to intellectuals like Reinhard Kirchner, a German physicist, and Kenny Veach, a YouTube adventurer, hundreds have disappeared, leaving behind bizarre clues. A pair of pristine shoes after 4 brutal winters, a dry iPod in a drowned man's pocket, an abandoned camper with food still in the fridge. The locations, whether Yosemite's dense forests, Idaho's rugged mountains, or Nevada's desolate deserts, share an unsettling trait: they seem to hide secrets no one can uncover. The weather often conspires against searches. Fog storms, relentless rain, as if nature itself is guarding the truth. And the most chilling detail, even the best trained bloodhounds and trackers fail to find a single trace. So what could be behind these vanishings? Let's consider a few possibilities. First, abduction, a shadowy organization targeting brilliant minds like Dickren or John, or innocent kids like Dennis. But why no signs of a struggle? Why can't bloodhounds pick up a scent? Second, accidents. Maybe they got lost, fell, or drowned. But how do you explain John's dry iPod or Jared's pristine shoes? Third, the supernatural. Locals in Arizona whispered of aliens when Reinhardt vanished, while Spence Field Tales speak of wild men living off the grid. Kenny Veach described a cave that made his body vibrate with primal fear. Fourth, a government cover-up. The National Park Service denies FOIA requests, and the FBI ignores key witnesses. Are they hiding something? Finally, psychological breakdowns. Perhaps these people walked away on their own. But how does that explain a 2-year-old like Dior vanishing in seconds? Each theory has holes, but each also has a pull. Personally, what keeps me up at night is the pattern. Why kids and intellectuals? Why are shoes and clothes left behind? Why does Yosemite, with its millions of visitors, harbor so many mysteries? Something bigger is at play, maybe a natural phenomenon we don't understand, or worse, a secret someone doesn't want us to uncover. To unravel this, we need to dive into the final moments of these people, the strange clues they left, and the desperate efforts to find them. What happened to Dickren on that half-dome trail? Why did John's body defy the laws of drowning? And who or what was the hairy man seen near Spence Field? Let's step into this journey where every clue raises a new question, and the truth feels just out of reach. As we leave behind Dickren Canadian's final steps on the Half-Dome Trail, John Marshall's departure from the YMCA, and Dennis Martin's disappearance behind a tree, the story shifts to what happened next. The critical moments when the world realized they were gone, and the baffling clues that emerged. But the deeper we dig the stranger, it gets a dry iPod in a drowned man's pocket. Pristine shoes after 4 harsh winters. A cave that vibrated with terror. Massive search efforts involving hundreds of people often ended in failure, leaving families in despair and questions unanswered. What really happened, and why do these clues lead us into a maze with no exit? Let's start with Dickren Canadian, the 20-year-old pre-med student. On July 24, 1972, he arrived at Curry Village, a bustling tent camp in Yosemite National Park. The tent stood shoulder to shoulder, filled with the chatter of campers under the summer sun. Dickren, with his warm smile and keen eyes, checked into cabin 486. He dropped off his luggage, a backpack with clothes books and personal items, and headed to the front desk, asking for directions to Half-Dome Yosemite's granite giant. The clerk pointed to a paved trail, saying it was a straightforward hike. Dickren nodded, thanked them, and set off. That was the last anyone saw of him. On July 31st, when he didn't check out housekeeping, entered his tent. They froze. His luggage sat untouched on the floor, the bed pristine as if he'd never slept there. No footprints, no signs of a struggle, nothing. Dickren had vanished from a crowded camp on a trail walked by hundreds daily. Thousands of miles, and over 4 decades later, a similar tragedy unfolded in Spokane, Washington. On the morning of January 25, 2015, John Marshall, a 49-year-old surgeon and former Marine, left his rural home at 5 a.m. Thick fog enveloped Spokane, bringing a biting chill and freezing drizzle. John drove to the downtown YMCA as he had countless times. Security footage captured him leaving the building at 5:33 a.m., dressed in running gear, t-shirt, shorts, sneakers, and starting his jog. That was the last time he was seen alive. When John didn't return to the YMCA or show up at the VA hospital for scheduled surgeries, colleagues called his wife, also a doctor. She rushed to the YMCA, finding his car and the lot keys and wallet in his locker. Police were called, but the fog grounded helicopters. Ground teams scoured the city, focusing on the Spokane River running through downtown. Nothing turned up. Then, on January 26th, a passerby reported a body in the river just below a 15-foot rapids. It was John. But here's the kicker. His body was face-up, a rarity for male drowning victims who are found face down 99.9% of the time. Even stranger police found an iPod in his left front pocket completely dry, as if it had never touched water. No traces of vegetation or debris clung to his body, despite the supposed journey through the rapids. How could a fit, battle-hardened swimmer drown in such circumstances? Now to Spence Field on the Appalachian Trail in June 1969. Dennis Martin, a 6-year-old with a bright smile, was playing hide-and-seek during a Father's Day camping trip. His father, a sharp architect, watched as Dennis hid behind a tree just yards away. He swears he didn't look away for more than 30 seconds. But when the game ended and the kids were called out, Dennis was gone. His father bolted to the tree, searched frantically, then ran 2 miles down the Appalachian Trail, finding nothing. Torrential rain fell for 7 days, turning the area into a swamp and crushing search hopes. But the strangest detail came from another family, the Keys, 2 miles away at Rowan's Creek. They reported hearing a gut-wrenching scream, then spotting a hairy man moving among the trees, carrying something on his shoulder. A 12-year-old in the family insisted it wasn't a bear, but looked human. When they reported this to the FBI, the agency dismissed it, claiming the timing and distance didn't add up. Not a single word about the Keys sighting made it into official records, as if it never happened. These cases don't end there. Consider Jared Atadero, a 3-year-old who vanished in October 1999 in Colorado's Comanche Peak Wilderness. Jared was with a group of adults visiting a fish hatchery, but the group veered deeper into the forest without telling his parents. While hiking, Jared wandered ahead, approached 2 fishermen by a creek, and asked if there were bears nearby, banging a stick in the water. They told him to stop scaring the fish and let him walk off. No one saw him again. 4 years later, in 2003, hikers found Jared's clothes pants inside-out jacket on the ground at 700 feet above the trail in rugged terrain. Even adults would struggle to navigate. Nearby on a log lay a skull fragment and a tooth. But the most bizarre part, Jared's shoes, which he never tied because he didn't know how looked brand new despite 4 brutal Colorado winters at 9,500 feet. No blood stained the clothes, no signs of an animal attack. The sheriff quickly claimed a mountain lion killed Jared, but 4 independent experts debunked this, citing no evidence of an attack. Then there's Kenny Veach, a 47-year-old YouTube adventurer who disappeared on November 10, 2014, in Nevada's Sheep Mountains. Known for his desert exploration videos, Kenny captivated viewers with his rugged charm. On one trip, he found a strange cave shaped like an M, which made his body vibrate with an overwhelming sense of dread. In his YouTube video, his voice trembled. "I've never felt anything like it. It was like a warning to get out." He fled but returned weeks later, armed with a gun, determined to find the cave again. That was his last journey. Police later found his phone near a cave entrance, but it's unclear if it was the one he described. A remote camera probed the cave, finding no trace of Kenny. What was in that cave that terrified him so deeply, and why did he vanish when he went back? The clues in these cases only deepen the mystery. John's dry iPod defies explanation. If he passed through rapids, why no water damage? Why was his body face up with no debris from the falls? Jared's pristine shoes and bloodless clothes suggest something other than a natural death. How could a 3-year-old reach such a treacherous spot? Dennis's case hinges on the Keys sighting of a hairy man ignored by the FBI, but believed by tracker Dwight McCarter, who proved the timeline was possible. Kenny's phone near the cave hints he was close to his goal, but what stopped him? These aren't just clues. They're riddles daring us to solve them. Investigations, despite their scale, often fizzled out. For Dickren Park, police searched the Half Dome Trail and posted flyers, but efforts ceased after 10 days. His family, desperate, contacted the U.S. Embassy Nixon and Reagan to no avail. A private investigator found nothing. The National Park Service stonewalled FOIA requests even decades later. In Spokane, fog hampered John's search, grounding helicopters. A private detective, a former sheriff, insisted John's body was placed in the river, not drowned. Investigators admitted it was their most baffling case, yet ruled it an accidental drowning. Dennis's search was massive, involving the Park FBI and a Green Beret regiment, but rain obliterated clues. The FBI's dismissal of the Keys sighting infuriated Dennis's father. Jared's case saw a military helicopter crash during the search, adding chaos. The mountain lion conclusion was debunked, but no alternative emerged. Kenny's search scoured every cave in the Sheep Mountains, yielding only his phone. Theories swirl around these cases. Abduction, a secret group targeting minds like Dickren or John, but where's the evidence? Accidents lost. Fallen drowned. Then why the dry iPod? The pristine shoes? Supernatural, the hairy man? Alien sightings in Arizona? Kenny's vibrating cave? Folklore, like Iceland's living rocks, hints at the unknown. Government cover-up. FOIA denials, ignored witnesses, a mysterious call to Jared's dad suggesting hidden truth. Or psychological breaks. But how do kids like Dennis or Jared fit for me? The patterns, missing shoes, failed bloodhounds. Yosemite's eerie prominence point to something beyond our grasp, perhaps a natural anomaly or a guarded secret. These clues aren't just puzzle pieces. They're a challenge to keep searching. But as these clues lead nowhere, the pain of those left behind, families, friends, communities, cuts deepest. How did they fight for answers? And why were their efforts met with silence? Let's explore their stories, their tears, and the secrets they uncovered. As bizarre clues like a dry iPod, pristine shoes after 4 winters, or a fleeting hairy man lead us into dead ends, the story now turns to those left behind, families, friends, and communities carrying an unrelenting grief and a fierce resolve to uncover the truth. But behind their tears and tireless searches lies a wall of silence from authorities, cold rejections, and secrets that seem deliberately buried. From desperate letters to President Nixon to a cryptic phone call hinting at hidden truth, these families aren't just battling loss, but a sense of betrayal. Is something darker being concealed? And why have their loved ones become victims of these unsolved mysteries? Start with a Canadian family who lost Dickren, the promising 20-year-old pre-med student. Vartkus, Canadian Dickren's father, was no ordinary man. As the owner of Bacchus and Strauss, the world's oldest diamond and watch company, he wielded influence and resources. When he learned his son vanished at Yosemite, in 1972, Vartkus sprang into action. He flew from Ethiopia to the U.S. Embassy in Addis Ababa, pleading for help. He wrote letters, made calls, and leveraged high-level connections, even enlisting Emperor Haile Selassie to send a message to President Nixon. Vartkus didn't stop there. He contacted California Governor Ronald Reagan, hoping state pressure could sway the National Park Service. But every effort hit a brick wall. The embassy sent cursory messages to local hospitals and jails, finding nothing. Reagan said it was a federal matter out of his hands. Desperate, Vartkus hired a private investigator who came up empty. Years later, Dickren's younger brother, also named Vartkus, took up the fight. He filed FOIA requests for his brother's case files, only to be flatly denied. In an email to investigator Dave the younger, Vartkus wrote, "Nobody cares, Dave. I appealed, but no one even responded. I live in London, but even an American like you can't get anything from your government." His words drip with frustration and sorrow, as if the family lost not just Dickren, but their faith in justice. Farther east at Spencefield on the Appalachian Trail, the Martin family story is a wound that never heals. Mr. Martin, Dennis's father, was a sharp architect who prided himself on protecting his family. When 6-year-old Dennis vanished in June 1969, right before his eyes during a hide-and-seek game, Mr. Martin never forgave himself. He stayed at the park for 6 weeks, refusing to leave, joining every search and chasing every lead. But what fueled his rage wasn't just his son's disappearance. It was how authorities treated him. When the Key family 2 miles away reported seeing a hairy man carrying something and hearing a horrific scream, the FBI dismissed it, saying the timing and distance didn't match. They didn't log the sighting in official records, and Mr. Martin only learned of it weeks later from a reporter. He confronted the FBI and Park Service demanding answers, but got vague responses. Dwight McCarter, a seasoned park tracker, believed Dennis was abducted and walked Mr. Martin through the route to prove it was possible. But the truth remained buried. Years later, when Dave met Mr. Martin at his Tennessee home, the elderly man still carried his pain. He told Dave, "I've spent my life trying to move on, but I can't. They lied to me over and over." Their conversation left both in tears, and Dave realized Mr. Martin's pain wasn't just losing his son, but being betrayed by those meant to help. In Colorado, Alan Adadero, Jared's father, faced a similar battle. Jared, a 3-year-old, vanished in 1999 in Comanche Peak Wilderness, and Alan and his family joined daily searches despite a military helicopter crashing during the effort. 2 weeks later, Alan received a chilling phone call. A voice claiming to be from inside the sheriff's office said, "You're not being told the whole truth. They're hiding something, and I hope you'll learn it someday." The call ended abruptly, leaving Alan reeling. 4 years later, when Jared's clothes, pants, inside-out jacket on the ground were found 700 feet above the trail alongside pristine shoes, the sheriff claimed a mountain lion attack. Alan, backed by experts, rejected this, noting no blood or animal marks. He pressed for answers, but got none. That mysterious call haunted him, a reminder that something bigger was being concealed. The pain wasn't confined to families. Communities were swept up in these tragedies. In Yosemite, hundreds of volunteers searched for Dickren, posting flyers and scouring trails, but efforts halted after 10 days. The National Park Service seemed eager to close the case. In Spokane, locals were stunned by John Marshall's death, a beloved doctor. They combed the Spokane River, but fog and drizzle thwarted them. When John's body was found, many questioned the accidental drowning ruling, especially after a private detective suggested foul play. At Spencefield, Dennis's search was one of the largest in Appalachian Trail history, involving the park FBI and a Green Beret regiment, but rain turned hope to despair. In Colorado, Jared's case gripped local media, but they parroted the debunked mountain lion theory, ignoring oddities like the pristine shoes. Media played a role, but often lacked depth. Knoxville Times articles on Dennis omitted the Key family's hairy man sighting as if it was deliberately suppressed. CBS Las Vegas covered Kenny Veach, focusing on his YouTube video, but skimming over the eerie cave. A FOIA document revealed a cable from Ethiopia about Dickren, but it never hit the press. Social media, though not prominent in Dickren or Dennis's time, amplified Kenny's story, with thousands watching his video and speculating. Yet, this attention yielded no new leads, only fueling rumors from aliens in Arizona to wild men in Spencefield that left communities rattled. Official stonewalling deepened the family's pain. The National Park Service denied FOIA requests for Dickren's case, with an agent telling Dave, You'll never get this file offering no reason. The FBI's dismissal of the Key family's sighting in Dennis's case and their failure to inform Mr. Martin felt like a betrayal. Jared's case grew murkier, with that cryptic call to Alan hinting at a cover-up. These actions fueled theories of a larger conspiracy. Is the Park Service or FBI protecting a secret? If so, what? Some speculate about covert experiments targeting kids or intellectuals. Others wonder if authorities are suppressing truth to prevent panic given the hotspots like Yosemite. New details add layers to the mystery. In Arizona, where physicist Reinhard Kirchner vanished in 2007, locals reported a silver object in the sky near his abandoned camper. Navajo police and sheriffs used helicopters and dogs, finding nothing. Alien rumors spread, but went uninvestigated. At Spence Field Tracker, Dwight McCarter spoke of wild men, off-grid loners, and furs roaming the woods, believing Dennis was taken by one. In Iceland, mentioned in the document, locals believe rocks can live and engulf people. Could Yosemite's granite giants like Half Dome hold similar secrets? These tales, though easy to dismiss, suggest something beyond the ordinary. New theories emerge. A secret organization targeting bright minds or kids for unknown purposes experiments trafficking. But why no traces? Supernatural forces grow plausible with sightings of hairy men, silver objects, and Kenny's cave. A government cover-up remains compelling given FOIA denials and ignored witnesses. Or perhaps victims were manipulated by an unseen force lured away without a trace. For me, the family's abandonment haunts most. They lost not just loved ones, but trust in the system. What's being hidden and by whom? These questions lead us to confront the unresolved mysteries and their broader meaning. With the tireless efforts of families like the Canadians, Martins, and Adaderos, met with official silence and cryptic clues leading nowhere, we arrive at a final crossroads, the unanswered questions and deeper significance of these vanishings. From pristine shoes, enduring 4 winters, a dry iPod in a drowned man's pocket, to a fleeting hairy man in the woods, each detail feels like a piece of a larger puzzle no one can solve. Are we facing an undiscovered natural phenomenon, a meticulously hidden conspiracy, or a force beyond human understanding? And what do these cases reveal about our primal fears, the dark corners of a world we thought we knew? Let's revisit the patterns tying these cases together, invisible threads linking Yosemite, Spence Field, Spokane, and beyond. First, the victims seem deliberately chosen. Children aged 2. 10, like Jared Adadero Dior Kuntz and Dennis Martin, form a significant group, innocent kids vanishing in seconds. Then there are young adults in their early 20s like Dickren Canadian, and brilliant minds like John Marshall, a surgeon, and Reinhard Kirchner, a physicist. These aren't vulnerable wanderers. They're sharp, promising individuals. Why them? A geneticist told investigator Dave that young children's DNA is pure, untainted by disease or injury. Could a force be targeting this purity? Or is there something in the intellect of people like Dickren or John that makes them prey? Second, the clues are eerily surreal. Jared's shoes, found 700 feet up a rugged Colorado trail, looked brand new after 4 winters at 500 feet. His clothes pants inside-out jacket on the ground bore no blood or animal marks, as if placed deliberately. John's dry iPod tucked in his pocket while his body lay in the Spokane River defies logic. If he passed through 15-foot rapids, why no water damage or debris? Dickren's luggage sat untouched in his Yosemite tent, his bed unmade as if he never existed. Kenny Veach's phone found near a Nevada cave that filled him with dread, leaves us wondering what he encountered. These aren't just clues. They're paradoxes challenging our understanding. Third, traditional search methods consistently fail. Bloodhounds trained to track in any condition find nothing. In Dior Kuntz's case, the 2-year-old who vanished at an Idaho campsite, the sheriff and divers scoured the nearby creek and reservoir, declaring with 100% certainty he wasn't there. Yet, Dior remains missing. In Arizona, Reinhard Kirchner's search involved helicopters and dogs, but no scent or tracks emerged near his locked camper. Even expert trackers like Dwight McCarter at Spence Field were stumped, believing Dennis was abducted, but unable to explain the lack of traces. These failures aren't coincidences. They suggest something is bending the rules of physics and logic. Fourth and most troubling is the authorities' opacity. The National Park Service denies FOIA requests for Dickren's case, an agent telling Dave, "You'll never get this file without explanation." The FBI's dismissal of the Key family's hairy man sighting in Dennis's case and their failure to inform his father feels like a cover-up. A mysterious call to Jared's father, Alan, hinted at hidden information. These actions fuel conspiracy theories. Are the Park Service or FBI shielding a secret? If so, what? Some speculate about experiments targeting kids or intellectuals. Others wonder if authorities are suppressing truth to avoid panic given hotspots like Yosemite. These unanswered questions point to a broader significance. These cases tap into our deepest fears being taken without a trace, realizing the world we know hides dark secrets. Places like Yosemite with their wild beauty evoke awe and terror. They're where we confront nature, but also where nature seems to turn against us. Folklore from Spence Field's wild men, Arizona's alien sightings to Iceland's living rocks reflects our attempts to explain the inexplicable, but they also remind us that some mysteries outstrip modern science. The emotional toll is profound. The Canadians Martins and Adaderos lost not just loved ones, but trust in the system. Varticus Canadian died without answers, leaving his son to fight a losing battle. Mr. Martin, tearful in his talk with Dave, lived with rage at the FBI's deceit. Alan Adadero remains haunted by that cryptic call, wondering if he missed the truth about Jared. These families represent countless others living with unending grief, sleepless nights, and fading hopes for miracles. The societal impact is equally weighty. These cases have reshaped how we view national parks, turning havens into places of peril. Dave, a nature lover, now carries a locator and gun on hikes. Hotspots like Yosemite evoke fears akin to the Bermuda Triangle. They raise questions about official accountability. Why does the Park Service with 600 law enforcement officers withhold missing persons lists? Why are FOIA requests denied? These aren't just legal issues. They strike at our belief in justice. For me, what haunts is how these cases challenge our worldview. I can't shake the sense that something bigger is at work, a natural anomaly like Iceland's living rocks or a hidden secret. But the family's pain, their abandonment, cuts deepest. These stories remind us that in a world of light, shadows persist. The truth about Dickren, John, Dennis, Jared, and others is out there waiting for someone brave enough to find it. After the unanswered questions, the profound significance, and the haunting clues from Dickren Canadian's abandoned luggage. John Marshall's dry iPod to the hairy man glimpsed in the woods, we're left with what remains a mystery shrouded in darkness, families grappling with unending grief, and a reminder that truth, however elusive, is worth pursuing. These aren't just cold cases. They're scars on the hearts of ordinary people who've lost loved ones and faith in the system. They're also a challenge to us all. Do we dare peer deeper into the world's shadows, where secrets may lurk? As we close this journey, let's reflect on what we've uncovered, ponder its meaning, and ask the questions that will linger long after. These vanishings at Yosemite, Spokane, Spence Field, and beyond aren't isolated incidents. They form a larger phenomenon defying comprehension. Dickren Canadian, a 20-year-old pre-med student with dreams of healing, vanished on a crowded Yosemite trail in 1972. His luggage left, as if he'd never been there. John Marshall, a 49-year-old surgeon and Marine veteran, disappeared in Spokane's fog in 2015. His body later found with impossible details face up in a river iPod dry. Dennis Martin, a 6-year-old, evaporated before his father's eyes at Spence Field in 1969, while a nearby family saw a hairy man carrying something. Jared Adadero, 3 left behind clothes and pristine shoes after 4 Colorado winters. Kenny Veach, a YouTube explorer, was lost after seeking a cave that filled him with dread in Nevada. Each case is a puzzle piece, but together they don't form a clear picture. Instead, they create a labyrinth of questions. Who or what is behind these disappearances? Why do bloodhounds fail? Why is Yosemite, with millions of visitors, a nexus of mystery? The eerie clues amplify the unease. Jared's shoes, pristine after 4 winters at 9,500 feet, defy reason. His clothes, neatly placed, bore no blood or animal marks, as if staged. John's dry iPod found in his pocket in the Spokane River raises doubts. How could it survive rapids? The hairy man sighting at Spence Field, dismissed by the FBI, suggests something or someone lurks in the woods. Kenny's cave, with its vibrating terror, feels like a portal to another realm. These aren't just evidence. They're whispers from a deeper mystery daring us to listen. The family's pain anchors these stories. Vartkus Canadians sought help from the U.S. Embassy, Nixon and Reagan, but faced silence. His son, years later, was denied case files. Mr. Martin stayed at Spence Field for 6 weeks, only to learn the FBI hid a key clue. Alan Adadero, haunted by a call about hidden truth, rejected the mountain lion theory about Jared. These families lost not just loved ones, but trust, living with sleepless nights and fading hopes. The societal ripples are vast. National parks, once havens, now spark fear. Dave, a nature enthusiast, hikes armed and tracked. Hotspots like Yosemite evoke Bermuda Triangle-like dread. Official accountability is questioned. Why does the Park Service withhold data? Why do FOIA requests fail? These cases challenge our sense of justice. My reflection blends curiosity and unease. I sense a larger force, perhaps a natural anomaly or a buried secret. The family's abandonment haunts me most. These stories warn us of shadows in a bright world. The truth about Dickren, John, Dennis, Jared, and others awaits the brave. Now I want your thoughts. What's behind these vanishings? A secret organization targeting kids and scholars? A supernatural force like hairy men or aliens? Or a government cover-up? Share your theories in the comments. I'm dying to hear them, or any similar stories you know. Subscribe and hit the bell for more mysteries like those at Great Lakes or Appalachian Trail. Together we might edge closer to the truth, or at least shine a light into the dark.